20 years ago, I was doing federal cases in New York, and we were representing Guyanese people from Guyana, and they were charged with money laundering on behalf of a much larger criminal organization. And these people were just individuals, and we did a great job for them. And so we got a bit of a reputation in Guyana.
Kenneth Weisman, what a pleasure to have you on the Goldberg Rosen Podcast.
It is my pleasure to be here. Love what you've done with the place here.
Well, we figured that if we built it, they will come, and we are so glad to have you, the preeminent criminal defense lawyer, been doing this for over 40 years. Talk to us about how you got started.
Wow, that's a family matter. So I come from a very colorful family, and, to me, I was just being raised in this normal Jewish home. But if you believe what they write in the New York Times, this is back in the 70s, I'm in some sort of a crime family, and my father they talk about him in the New York Times as a crime person, and ultimately he got indicted for racketeering, and, a therapist once told me, they go, "Oh, so you were going to defend the family." So I don't know, have at it. But I wanted to be a criminal defense attorney.
So is it growing up in a house where allegedly your dad was part of the crime family? Is that what triggered you to become a criminal defense lawyer?
I don't know. The therapist says yes. I don't believe that. But I really enjoyed being around that element. I enjoyed working as a prosecutor. I enjoyed working as a defense attorney.
Yeah, I wanted to be a criminal defense lawyer. And I had a client come to me, say, "Hey, will you represent me in this felony?" I walk into the courthouse. I'd never been in the criminal courthouse before. I walk in there. I don't even know where to stand. This is 25 years ago.
I remember this.
And I look around and I see one guy above all else who looks like he knows exactly what to do, because the bailiff was high-fiving you. The judge calls you first out of line. Your client is just whisked through the whole process. And I said to my client, I said, "You know what? We're going to hire that guy." And ever since that moment, you are our guy.
That is a true story. I do recall that. People are like, "How'd you meet Judd?" And I'm like, he was in our house, and our house being the criminal courthouse. And I do go there every day. So
there's such a camaraderie when you walk in that building with the people who run the place, you and the other criminal defense lawyers that show up there every day. What's that all about? Where does that come from?
Well, unlike civil, where you come in occasionally and from different walks of life and different types of practices, the criminal community is more of a closed fraternity. The prosecutors grow up there. They start as county court and work their way up to circuit court. The public defender's the same. And, when you're in that place every day, your word is priceless. And, whether you're a cop, a prosecutor, a PD, a defense attorney, what I found to be the key is to be impeccable with your word. And, it pays dividends that transcend what you learn in law school.
It feels like in the criminal courthouse, there's less fighting than there is in the civil courthouse.
Much, much less. Because you can't, like if you were to pull what is pulled in civil or family, a judge would be like, "What are you doing?" Because you're going to have more cases with that prosecutor, that judge, and we all behave according to a code, and we stay within that code. And even when sometimes, suppose I have a situation that's just a dead loser, but I have a family here to deal with, and I have to fight. I'll often grab the prosecutor, go to see the judge in chambers prior, and say, "Look, I need a minute to do this." And everybody's like, "Sure, go ahead. because, you don't want to waste their time, and you don't want to you're going to be in there again and again and again. So again, your reputation is essential.
So on TMZ, you were all over the news.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Tell me about that. Tell us about that case.
So, I got people, these rap stars, people remember, and it's a big deal. And, I remember when I met this gentleman, his name is Little Pump. That's not his real name, but that's what he goes by. And he was telling me about himself in this case. And I'd never heard of him. And then I told my kids, I was like, hey, have you ever heard of this guy? And they're like, what are you, crazy? Dad, it's Little Pump, Gucci Gang. Anyway, so I did represent him, and I took his case, and we won, and it was a great experience. And he was a very, very nice fellow. He's quite a character. It was a misunderstanding at the airport with his luggage, and I'd rather not get into it beyond that, but let's call it a misunderstanding.
When you were on the way to the courthouse, were you blasting his music in the car, getting amped?
No. No, that's a no. There was another case in the newspapers regarding a shooting in front of the restaurant Prime 112. And that's like right next to where I live. So, we ended up representing the shooter in that case. And the reason it drew a lot of scrutiny, it was in page 6 of the New York Post, is because it involved the rapper DaBaby. And anyway.
Did you get to meet DaBaby?
I did not. I just cared about my client, who was allegedly the shooter. And we won the case, or got the charges dropped on a self-defense issue. But some of the more larger profile cases, which this is one that you're not going to believe. So 20 years ago, I was doing federal cases in New York, and we were representing Guyanese people from Guyana, and they were charged with money laundering on behalf of a much larger criminal organization. And these people were just individuals, and we did a great job for them. And so we got a bit of a reputation in Guyana. When I say we, it was me and another attorney, John Bergendahl, famous lawyer. He was in the Miami River Cops case. Incredible lawyer. And so we got contacted by the actual head of the cartel in this case, and the United States had arrested him. They had kidnapped him in Suriname pursuant to what's called extraordinary rendition, and brought him to New York for prosecution. And so we're doing the case, and we're doing great, and all of a sudden, John and I get fired. We're off the case. And we're like, he's hired another lawyer, and his name was Roger Kahn. It's a very famous case. And we're like, who's this lawyer? And some New York lawyer takes over the case, and we're out, and we're just scratching our heads. Within 6 months, the lawyer is indicted, Robert Simmels, with the client for allegedly witness tampering.
Wow.
And the lawyer got, I think, 15 years. He went to trial and lost.
Wow.
Does Kenneth Weisman work on the weekends?
That's
You work on Sundays, man?
Let me tell you something. That is like, as a criminal defense attorney, you work whenever the phone rings. And it's unlike other types of law. People really need you at all hours. And it just happens that way. And you need to be prepared and ready to go. Going to court on weekends happens. First appearance bond court on a Saturday or Sunday. I do it all the time. So, it's a different animal. But of course, there's lawyers who don't do it. And there was a lawyer, as you well knew, who interviewed someone on a PI case. And, they just didn't work weekends. And that's what they told the client. And then the client called us. And Judge Rosen worked very hard that weekend, and we signed up a great case. And you got a great result. So
We love your attitude when it comes to practicing law because you share our belief that the client is the most important thing above all. And we're not magicians. You can't make the charges always disappear. We can't make the clients who we deal with, make them not be victims of negligence. But we can bring them the satisfaction that they know we're in their corner and we're going to be fighting for their best interest first, above our own.
I love referring you guys cases because I tell them, look what they did. Read the New York Times. Look what they did in the Surfside case. I mean, you guys, this has been a wonderful, I mean, we're dear friends, but in terms of a business marriage, we give you cases and the results are incredible.
We tell everybody that in your world, in the criminal defense world, Ken Weisman walks on water.
If only I did.
It's true,
He
though.
does.
It's
He
true.
does.
It's
When you
if
walk
only
in
I
that
did.
building, it's like you're floating above everybody else.
All I can say is that I enjoy having a great reputation. I have a smile on my face, and I love to see the clerks, the corrections officers. That's my house. That's where I work, and
I've seen judges in the middle of open court ask you, "Hey, Kenny, what's the best restaurant on South Beach now?"
well, that's a whole nother gig. Yeah, no, I mean, we're so fortunate in criminal. We have a great group of judges, and it is a fraternity. And when we lose them to civil, we complain, and often then they're like, well, I'm not coming back for a while, and. But
Well, I could tell you, when I was a young lawyer, still think I am a young lawyer, I always look to people who have a ton of experience, and I try to take away certain characteristics of that person that makes them a successful lawyer. And what I've always taken away from you is a couple things. One is you always answer the phone. No matter what time, no matter what is going on. It could be New Year's, it could be Christmas, it could be your birthday, your kid's birthday. You will always answer the phone, and you will always give either myself or somebody who I might be referring to you the time.
Well, see, your firm and I share a common principle, and that's servicing the client. And it's great for us because there's so many lawyers who adopt a position of some sort of aloofness almost, wherein, I'm busy the weekend or the time, or I'll and they just don't treat the client right. And my attitude is, these people are paying you. You've agreed to represent them. You better answer your phone. You better be answerable, and you better also be understanding and empathize with what they're going through. And I see that with you guys. Let me bring up a case you handled. A woman in my building suffered a bad accident having lunch at a patio where a ceiling fan fell on her head. And the treatment she received in terms of the compassion and ultimately the result is incredible. And you guys know the case. And, you ended up getting a judgment of over $4 million for a woman who got hit with a ceiling fan. But she was a challenging client and was going through quite a bit. And the care and love you showed her, I think it's compassion, and it yields results both intrinsically and as well as judgment numbers.
Well, the other thing that I take away from you is your presence. You always have a smile on your face. You just give off this energy of, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to kick ass for you, but I'm going to do it with a smile on my face and ethical. And so I wanted to tell you that because it really means a lot to me to have you in my life and being able to learn from you.
Well, I treasure our friendship, and like you guys, dress appropriately, be timely, Those are essential things. It's funny you say that's how I come off in court. I took my fiance with me to court recently, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're a peacock. You're a peacock in there." I said, "No, I'm just prepared." And she goes, "No, you're a peacock."
Well, congratulations on your engagement and also the personal successes you've had in life, overcoming some challenges and making a steady effort to improve who you are as a person.
I appreciate that. It's a big deal to me because, going through things, you grow in this practice, right? And some like to just sit back and they're not introspective, not self-aware. And these are essential to both individual growth and I think our practice.
To get a little more personal though, you haven't touched a drink in how long?
13 and a half years. Not
Congrats,
a drink.
man.
And, it's funny. I never encountered, a lot of lawyers, they get drinking problems and then they have problems with the law. And then it becomes, that's their wake up call. But for me, I was raising 2 boys at the Continuum and my housekeeper said to me, you're not doing well. And that was a wake-up call to me.
Wow.
And, I got sober and never looked back. And it's the most important thing in my life today, is living like that. It's sobriety is a gift. And the life I get to live today is beyond my wildest dreams. I travel, I would never have the friendships, the relationships, whether it's family or even work, without sobriety.
What was that struggle like to turn that page, to go from somebody who said to themselves, hey, you know what? I'm not happy with this process, but I've been doing it for years now, and now I got to turn a different page.
Well, it was a long growth process. And for me, going to Alcoholics Anonymous was great. It was wonderful. I walked in the doors to there 13 and a half years ago and raised my hand and said, this is who I am. And I was open-minded and willing and went to meetings and continued to.
That's about the only time you wouldn't pick up the call.
Yeah, that's the one time. That's the only time. He says, I'll call you back in an hour.
I'm in a meeting. I'll call you back.
I'll call you back in
but
an
I
hour.
do text you. I'm in a meeting. It really does. All kidding aside, it is the most important thing that changed my life. And it's one thing to just get sober and just push this alcohol and, put that aside. But when you start self-examining the causes and you learn things about grace, humility, selflessness, you change. And it's been priceless to me.
Well, I've noticed a change. I remember who you were before, and I now know who you are as a human, and it's been a beautiful thing to watch.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, you can't do any better in your practice because you were winning all your cases before, and you're still winning them after.
No,
But we are really proud of you for that. Big jump.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would say this for someone who's thinking about becoming a criminal defense lawyer, like I was 25 years ago. You mentioned how important your word is. You mentioned how important it is to be available for the clients. Any other suggestions or thought processes that you would counsel someone thinking about being a criminal defense lawyer?
I would. For me, I started as an intern at the state attorney's office, and that is priceless. Whether it's the state attorney's office or the public defender's office, get in the courtroom. Watch the courtroom, because the law school is just a bubble and it's nothing like the courtroom. And being in a courtroom, you see the reality, the humanity. You see all aspects of what is that you're studying. And that in and of itself is priceless.
What about somebody who is accused of a crime?
Well, call me. Call me.
Yeah.
It's funny, one of the things about putting the client first, it's often a bit of a difficult lesson for a parent. Let me elaborate. I'll get hired by families where their children is in some sort of distress, whether it's drugs or an accident or something. And they're like, look, they're loving parents. They go, I just want my kid to get better. Maybe you can get them a program, or maybe you can get them, in this rehab and then probation or something like that. And I have to look at the parents and say, I hear you and I feel you, but my job is to win. My job is to win. And they're like, well, keep me in. And then I'll say, and it could be a juvenile, and I'll tell them, if your son or daughter tells me something in private, I'm not going to tell you. Yeah. And they're like, but we're the ones paying you. And I'm like, all of my loyalty goes to the child. And the parents look at you with incredulity, and it's like, that's just how it is. Client comes first.
As a criminal defense lawyer, is there anything that you see or over and over again that just makes you cringe that one of your clients does?
Unfortunately, a lot of denial is an issue. And I tell clients, you're allowed to tell me everything. And by law, the code and everything, I'll never give it up. But a lot of clients, often those with personal challenges, be it alcoholism, drug abuse, are suffering, and they can't tell you an honest dissertation of what occurred. But a lot has changed with the invention of body cams. So in many criminal cases, in the old days, a client would come and tell you, say, no, I was perfect. I was this wonderful, and then they were out of control. And then you watch the footage from body cam. And let me tell you something, jurors, they want to see the body cam. They want to see the video because they listen to the prosecutor and they're like, forget that. I'm going to watch this video.
So when the client is not forthright with you, it obviously puts you in a disadvantage on how to advise them and how to move forward with the case.
Right. But you also have to empathize because they're struggling with personal demons, be it, again, alcohol, drugs, and you see a lot of that. Or in domestic cases, which are all too common, there are other issues at play in the defendant's mind that you can see their issues and their problems and things that transcend just the criminal arrest affidavit.
It's kind of a cliche, but as a criminal defense lawyer, is there any case you wouldn't touch?
No.
Really?
No.
Really?
It's funny when
because I hear, in your mind, you got to be like, oh my God, that's such a terrible crime. I don't want to be near that person.
Right.
I couldn't morally represent somebody who potentially did something so horrific.
Well, I don't take death cases because I feel that there are lawyers that only do death cases that are just the most qualified to do those. So that's one thing I don't do. And when I had young children, I didn't take cases where children were victims, but I got through that, and they grew up, and
Well, I really want to thank you for coming on. This was an awesome conversation. We're very lucky to have you in the studio, but we're even more lucky to have you as a friend.
I'll be candid. This is, people are watching this podcast. Oh, he's just spinning. I treasure our friendship. I talk to you guys almost daily, and I treasure our friendship. I treasure the way you treat my children and just everything.
Thanks, Kenny.
Thank you.